Hello. Good morning, Andrew. Life's getting in the way.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
How's your new place?
So far, so good. Definitely enjoying our new place and all the views and the extra space we have. Yes.
A little empathy training for you, buddy.
For me?
Yes.
Okay.
the
I'll work on
learning
that.
learning the moving process. Sorry,
Yeah.
my computer's on a thing. Okay. So let's start off with our stats. We'll do them really quickly and then we're going to get to the juicy bit, which is foreclosures. Is it a
Mhm.
deal? I don't think so. All right. So, getting here. New
There we
listings 245, pendings 216. This is good news still.
more listings than going pendings. We're seeing a little bit maybe possible rise in listing inventory.
Price decreases. This is similar to what we had over the past few weeks. So people really wanted to get their house sold before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It sold 558. I don't really care about that data, but that's a month.
Why we don't care about that is just the ones that actually went to the transactions that actually finished. Pending is the one that actually shows us what sold this month.
Right. And then net unconditional sales, October 2020, 990.
That's really small down at the bottom, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
looking at there. Okay.
And 619. I realize I've pulled up the wrong data. But anyway, let's get to foreclosures.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about the process from beginning to end. This is important for anybody who's having financial difficulty. We do suggest you go talk to your financial advisor and get their opinion on how you can avoid the foreclosure process. You're being very understanding right now.
Now, a lot of people who are going through foreclosure may not be able to may not have a financial advisor or a lawyer or an accountant or what have you. So, but definitely get advice and do your research and before the bank comes calling, even talk to a realtor about what the process is and what your options may be.
So my thought is always, and I tell people, tell my kids this, I tell everybody I know this, that if you're, the most important thing in your life is shelter, in my opinion. So please do not stop paying your mortgage if you do not have to. But if you do, basically within a month, you're going to get a call from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to ask you to pay.
Where is our money?
And then that'll escalate. In 2 or 3 months, you'll get a formal letter, probably from the bank.
At no time, unless you did a non-conventional loan, will you have somebody coming and threatening to take your kneecaps. So this is a financial thing that's going to happen to you, but not, you should be fine physically.
Right. And they're going to keep you in the house. They're not going to force you to leave the house. They're going to talk to a lawyer. So the bank will hire a lawyer or whoever the first lender is. And there may be more than one lender on your title of your house. And so the lawyer will look at all that and determine how much money your house is worth. So he'll get somebody to do an appraisal. And then they'll also determine how much is owing to all these various people. And at that point, he'll give you or she will give you a deadline to pay the full amount. And that's usually a couple of months out, I think. Correct?
Generally speaking, what was I going to say here? If someone, well, a couple of things. If someone comes calling and you do determine that the home is worth, let's say there's been a market correction and homes are worth 20% less than what you paid for it, and the bank is asking you to keep paying the mortgage. Jane, would you recommend they keep paying the mortgage?
No.
At that point, no, because you're not going to get that money back. The lender has a requirement to do their best when they sell the home to keep and protect your equity in the home. But if that home is just, there's no way that you're ever going to get your equity back out of it, then it may actually be in your best interest to stop paying and start making other plans. if you know you're going to be going through foreclosure. If you can work out a different payment schedule or something else, great. But because shelter is important, as Jane said, and sometimes even though your home may not be worth what you owe on it, it may still be worth it to you to keep it for lots of other reasons.
And the other thing is that if let's say you're going to be foreclosed on, you're going to be foreclosed on, then don't pay the money towards the bank, because it's just, as you said, money down the drain. But also at that point, you can start saving your money, and you become effectively a tenant in your own home. So the lawyer, first of all, though, has to go to the court to file a petition. And within a few days of that, you will receive a copy of that petition, as well as anybody who is a mortgage holder, and anybody who's a tenant in your property, as well as anybody with liens on the house. And a lien usually comes if a builder's done some work and they're going to be, they're wanting payment. So what they're doing is they're putting them in line. Then the lawyer will look top to bottom, and they're always going to be trying to pay people from top to bottom. And so they'll negotiate with people. Whoops, sorry.
Now, Jane, the other thing that's kind of key is, even though they're going to go top to bottom, and you might say, well, maybe I'll just stop paying this person at the bottom of the list because I can't afford to pay them. That still doesn't help you. Though wherever someone is on the list, if they're not getting paid, they can apply to court for a conduct of sale.
Right. Even if they're not the first person in the list. Yeah. So then the court gives the lender what's called an order nisi. And at that point, again, you'll be given the chance. Do you want to buy the house back? Do you want to redeem the mortgage? That means you're going to have to find a new lender. And some people have done that. And you have to pay the full amount plus any interest. And by the way, you can go into foreclosure if you don't pay your property taxes.
Yep, because that's the city is owed, the municipality is owed money by you, and you're not paying it, so they can apply to court for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then, if the court determines that the owner has not paid up and the property value equals or exceeds the debt, the borrower has no assets to apply towards any money outstanding, they then ask for an absolute order of foreclosure. The lawyer does, from the court. And the bank, oops, I got a spelling mistake, becomes a new owner of the property.
Banks don't generally want to own a property. If they can, they want to sell it through a conduct of sale where it still belongs to you, the person being foreclosed on. The foreclosure is the last resort from their perspective.
And it's an onerous process, as we both know.
Mm-hmm.
So they hire the banker, the lawyer, whoever is going to be operating on behalf of I say bank, but I mean lender, hires a realtor to list the property, and they usually list it at market value. So let's say the house is worth $550. All the loans are equal to be $500. They'll hire the realtor, and this usually happens. This is now like 6 months down the line, maybe even longer from when you first defaulted on your mortgage.
Now, this is an interesting little side comment, I guess, but if you're pre-foreclosure and if you're pre-foreclosure, you're going to have a hard time perhaps getting a realtor who's going to be able to sell your home and get paid. Because if there's no money to be had from the proceeds of the sale before you're being foreclosed upon, there's no guarantee that the realtor is going to get paid. Because remember that, as Jane said, things go in the order of the people owed, and the realtor is at the bottom of that list. After all is said and done and everybody's paid out, then the realtor gets paid. When it's an actual foreclosure order from the court, there is a provision in there that describes exactly how the listing is going to be run and how payment is processed, and there is an assurance for the realtor that they get paid. So you definitely want to talk to the realtor beforehand. you might have a good realtor is going to want to know, well, how much money do you owe, and am I going to be working for free here?
And I have been hired on a pre-foreclosure. And so usually what happens is on the title, there will be a statement that says there's an order against the owner.
Yeah.
And so you can pull that, and then you find out, oh, my client is being foreclosed upon. And actually what happened was I didn't sell the property in time. It literally 2 weeks happened. And
you lost the listing.
I lost the listing.
Yeah, because the old listing is no longer valid. The court has ordered a new listing. And so even if you had a listing contract signed, I have worked with a seller who just did not want the court to take her home, and she was willing and able, and she was able to pay off her mortgage debts, but it was a close call. But she, rather than have the court process, it was more of it was semantics really for her. She just didn't want to go into foreclosure.
It's a matter, yeah. It's a matter of timing, really, because I've just recently gone through the same thing as well. And so that person has come out ahead. And so they're going to be nicely set up for their next purchase. And they, the buyer's getting a nice house. So
I'm going to, just to go further with what I said earlier, Jane, about if you do call your realtor before you're being foreclosed upon, your realtor potentially can go to the bank and negotiate a short sale and negotiate the commission structure. Say to the bank, look, you don't want to go through the foreclosure process. We're trying to sell the home. Can you please guarantee, how this will work? Or if they can't guarantee, at least come to some sort of understanding. And then when you get an offer in place on the property, you go to the bank and say, look, here's what we have. Authorize this sale. You're going to lose some money, but not necessarily as much as if you'd gone through this other process.
So now if the owner remains in the property and we are in foreclosure, the realtor has to give the person living in the property, who is technically now a tenant, 24 hours notice for showings, and or set up a showing schedule, just assuming that this is when it works for both the tenant and the realtors. And all the chattels in the house, if you were to take the house and turn it upside down and shake it, anything that fell out is a chattel. So we're talking all the appliances, they still belong to the owner. And so when you're showing the property, you have to make that very clear to any prospective buyers that none of the appliances come with the house. And if you send an offer to court and you put them in, they'll strike it out. So
usually they have a lot of language in the contract that says you're buying this as is, where is, multiple times, as is, where is. And Jane, I would go further than saying, if you pick up the house and shake it upside down, it's more if you pick up the piece of land and shake it and forgetting about the property, the house, because you're buying this property as is, where is. And absolutely no guarantees, warranties, anything about what you get. You're going to get that land on completion. If the house is burnt down the day before and there was no insurance, you're still paying.
Right. And also, if the tenants leave anything behind, that's your problem as a buyer. So you're taking on a risk that way. Yeah,
there might be a lot of junk left over. The seller may maliciously damage everything in the house before completion. They know they're going to get nothing out of it. And then on the other hand, sometimes you get a house full of goods where the seller has moved off to Mexico somewhere and never comes back. And there's valuable goods in there, but you've got to determine what, whose are those and how do you deal with that?
Right. So as a buyer, when I'm showing the property, and there's two situations that I've encountered with buyers who have liked foreclosure property. So one, we liked the property as soon as it came on the market. And I think it was priced around $650 when the average sale price was $650. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't a deal. And often foreclosures will turn buyers off because after you get an accepted offer, you can write your regular conditions. It's subject to court approval. At that point, it then goes into an auction. So at the court, if more than one buyer and their agent shows up.
So the process, I just want to clarify, because I heard what you said, but it's, and I know what you're saying, but it may not have come out clear.
Okay.
You make your offer on this property. You have a condition period that's for your own conditions, whether it's inspection or financing or review of title or what have you. Once you've removed those conditions, then a court date begins, or they set a court date for then approval of your unconditional accepted offer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So number one, you can write an offer early on in the process when
Yes.
the price is at market value
Mm-hmm.
and the house is showing well, and you write the offer, and 2 weeks later you go to court, and probably you're not going to have a lot of foreclosure buzzards hanging around looking for the carrion, because it's too early in the process to
get a deal for it, to feel like you're getting a deal.
Yeah. So the second is, and there was a beautiful property actually, I think it's like 2007 from that was in the Highlands. And I went into that house and I thought, oh my God, I could live in this house. It was beautiful. It was a home built, I guess, by a builder. And everything they had decorated, I would have bought it. And it went into foreclosure. And what happened was everybody played the waiting game. So I think the house was priced around $900,000 at a point when $900,000 was high end. And it went down and went down and went down and went down. And I think the accepted offer price was around $650,000.
Wow, it's quite a difference.
Yeah. And then
it went to court.
So what happens is, so everyone plays the waiting game, and we tell buyers to play the waiting game, because the first person to write the offer, that accepted offer is then presented to everybody when the court date, it becomes public knowledge. So at this point, this is the only time when you know what another offer is going to be. And then 2 weeks later, you go to court.
So and you have time as the other agent with your other buyers to prepare and bring your best offer, knowing what the other offer is.
Right. So in this case, because we knew the price of the house was $650,000, everybody thought this is a great deal because it was a beautiful home.
Mm-hmm.
And that offer is negotiated between the buyer's agent and the listing agent and the lawyer for the bank. And it takes longer than a regular offer because the lawyer works 9 to 5 during the week. And the buyer still does their due diligence. We kind of went ahead, but anyway, they do their due diligence. They remove their conditions. As you said, they still have their offer conditional of a court approval. Everybody's notified of the court date and the price. And then people show up in court. So, and because the price is revealed in court, let's say you have 5 groups, then anybody can write an offer, right? And what are the conditions of the offer, Andrew?
The conditions of the offer on a court date, if you're competing, there are no conditions. It has to be an unconditional offer, and it has to follow the same terms and conditions as the original offer. So whatever the dates were, whatever the deposit amount was, it has to essentially be a mirror image, except it's a different set of buyers and a different purchase price.
So are you saying everybody has to have the same terms and conditions?
That's my understanding. Yeah. Have you had different experience? If it's the same closing date as the original, everything has to be something that the court can look at and say, these are all equal except for price. And then the court will make a decision. And sometimes it won't be based on price. They may still give some consideration to the first offerer, but because the court gets to make whatever decision they get to make. But usually, because they also have to consider the rights of the person being foreclosed on, it's going to be based on price. Do you have a different experience on this? My understanding is you have to have the same deposit amounts and same closing dates.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So you would bring a certified check with you, payable to, I'm not sure if it's the court actually, or your brokerage, and or a copy of proof of payment of deposit to the brokerage.
Essentially, it does have to be an unconditional offer ready to go at that time.
So how I've written those offers when I've come in, so let's say you've written an offer, you've submitted it to the court, and you say, I'm going to be going to court in 2 weeks. I then do my due diligence with my second buyer who's interested in the property. We get an inspection done. We get the financing pre-approval done. We go up at court, and we usually have 2 or 3 prices. One is the price that if there's just like the original offer and the original buyer doesn't show up to present a higher price. So we have another offer that's higher than that. And then depending on, we usually bring a blank contract, a second blank contract. And we're given a choice at that point if we want to submit a final offer, a sealed bid that goes to court. And I do the completion 2 weeks and the possession 2 weeks plus a day from the date of the decision. So at that point, it sounds confusing, but essentially the master of the court, who's kind of like a judge, says, does anybody else want to submit an offer? We say yes. We all go out into the hallway with our clients. We write up our new offer. We put it in an envelope. It gets taken to the front of the court. The master of the court, who's like the judge, makes a decision, and then you either get it or you don't. And I do find they've ruled differently. So sometimes they've ruled they're going to go with the first offer because that person pulled the plug and wrote the offer.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go with the highest offer, or sometimes they like the story of the different buyers. So
it's important to have a story. Money talks, generally speaking, but there's no guarantees. And here's the kicker. And this is what, Jane, if you're working with a family of 4 young children, they've sold their house, they have to be out by a certain date, and they're the ones, are you going to suggest that they be the ones that make that first offer at the court, or that first offer to pull the trigger?
My clients with my buyers who have a large family who need shelter.
Yes.
You're
gonna suggest that. So they made their offer. They have to be out by, let's say, January 1st. They make their offer today. They go through their due diligence. Then there's a court date set for like a month from now. Or what are the courts doing now for timing for court dates? So then they get to the court, and then they get beaten out by somebody else. They've got no place to live because now they have to go back to looking for a home, and they've got no assurance that they were going to win out on that foreclosure home.
Oh yeah. So I would not tell them to go for that.
There you go.
No.
Yeah.
No, because it's too, so the person who's the best foreclosure buyer is the one who doesn't care if they get it.
That's right. Yeah. They have no timelines, no needs. They understand the inherent value in the property. They understand the risks, and they're willing to take that.
That being said, I have shown up in court with my buyer and their 4 kids.
There you go.
And we win.
And showing up at court is different, though. Showing up at court is different because then at least you know that you're going to be closing in maybe a couple weeks, and you know at that moment if you've got it or you don't have it.
Right. And those people have been
Pardon me?
Those people have been in a rental position.
Yes.
So they haven't had to buy.
Right.
But I would never tell anybody, if you have to buy, you do not want to buy a foreclosure.
If you have to buy, you're going to be out of your home at a certain date, and are you really willing to lock yourself into the commitment once you've removed those conditions on your original purchase? That court date could be some ways down the road, and until the master of the court has reviewed your offer, and maybe other people have come in and shotgunned in and bought and blown you out of the water, you don't know what you're paying. You don't know if you're getting it. There's a lot of unknowns. So be careful. That's the bottom line.
So, and I also wanted to say, so the story of that $900,000 house that eventually got an accepted offer for 650. When it went to court, I think it sold for 790 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be prepared to show up with the money, unconditional, write the offer. And I always tell people, if you want to buy a foreclosure, wait. Often it drags on. Every month they're going to be reviewing it with the lawyer, what the price is. It's going to go to court. And at that point, then you can go in and write your offer. Yeah. That's when when all the cards are on the table.
You make a good point there, Jane, about every month they review the listing price or any offers that are coming in, and again, they have a duty to not just sell it. Let's say it's they're owed $500,000. The place is worth $700,000. They have a duty to try to get that $700,000. They can't just accept a $500,000 offer and say, "Great, we've paid off our debts, and everybody else can, they've got to deal with it on their own." So there's going to be a process, and there is no quote deal on a foreclosure, because they're going to start out based on the comparable properties. In fact, sometimes even on it, maybe a little bit high, because the banks are conservative and they don't want to underbid something, and they go through a process. So I would say in a market. So let me ask you this, Jane. Leading questions here. What do you think?
Leading questions from my leading man.
Of foreclosures in a marketplace where there are very few foreclosures and it's a seller's market, versus foreclosures where there's a lot of foreclosures going on and it's a buyer's market, in terms of getting a deal?
Oh, so in a buyer's market, you're going to get more of a deal, because there's going to be more properties than there are people looking. In a seller's market, likely it'll go fairly quickly, and you might have people selling pre-foreclosure as well.
Yeah. The market's going up, people are getting more money for their homes. It's those markets where properties are underwater and there's a lot of foreclosures happening. And we haven't seen that for a while. It's possible we'll see it again, but right now, and for the pretty much into the distant past, as long as I've been in real estate, I've not really seen a time where I thought this is a great time to be buying a foreclosure. Very, very seldom would I say this is a great time, versus a time where it's truly a buyer's market. People are having a hard time getting rid of their homes, and there's a lot of foreclosures. Then you've got people there's limited money in the field to buy these properties. There's some good deals to be had.
Yeah, and I found a lot of people shy away from buying foreclosures as well. They just don't like the feeling of pushing somebody out of their home. That's how they feel emotionally about it all. Yeah. As I said, the best person to buy a foreclosure is somebody probably who just wants, who's looking at it as a business decision, and likely they're going to fix it up and flip it. And the last foreclosure I went into, the other thing is the house even saleable or insurable?
Yes.
So there was a house in Esquimalt recently, a half duplex that I went and showed, and I think there was one functioning toilet. The person who lived there was a hoarder. They'd ripped out tons of carpet. Structurally, the house was good, actually, in the inspections, but a lot of people just didn't go for it because they just looked at it and they thought, oh my God, it's too much work. But the person who buys it is going to make money on it, because they will have to be an all cash buyer.
Yeah.
Because
there are definitely a lot of homes out there foreclosed on that were built, let's say, without the huge additions, without permits, grow ups, various stigmatisms that could affect your resale value. These are again sold as is, and you don't always know the backstory unless you do a lot of research.
Exactly. And so when you're looking at a foreclosure, I think the less emotion, the more business. Sometimes it's not your fault that you're in foreclosure.
Absolutely.
People feel like there's shame, especially now with what's happening with COVID, I don't think there's any shame whatsoever. So, just understand that we're here to help you. We'll walk you through the process. If we can get your house sold before it goes into foreclosure, that's the best thing. It's the tidiest way, and you'll end up with the most amount of money. If you're, if you know that you're in trouble, again, be open and honest with us about what your financial troubles are so that we can price your house accordingly. And if we can, maybe even underprice it a little bit so we get more action on your property, that might actually bring up the number of people offering. Right.
Which then brings up your price. And it's counterintuitive to some people to say we want to list your home at under market value. But in a market as we're experiencing today, the risk is very low because you're likely to get multiple offers above your asking price, and it will set the value. Your value will get there. So, definitely.
Do you have anything else you want to say on that?
I had something, but it came and went. Foreclosures are, if you are selling pre-foreclosure, it'll come back to me.
Okay. So what's your feeling on how the market's doing?
So, circling back to the stats we saw, one of the things I noted in the most recent weekly stats is we have a lot of listings coming on, more than we did last year. For, intuiting, we're about halfway through the month, and we've definitely got more than half of the new listings coming on. I think we are still a busy market. I'm really encouraging folks to buy and sell right now. People I would normally suggest that they wait. I'm definitely saying, go for it. I just had a listing last week. We ended up with 18 offers on the property. So that was...
what was the price point?
Price point, house in Langford with a suite, $729 asking price. Yeah. So it was a good price point. There was some work to be done on the home. And, in terms of, there was some work to be done, but it definitely, there's scarce out there. So
one of the things I'm telling people is, you better have a place to go to. Because I've been working with a couple of buyers right now. We don't have a place to take them. And it's stressful for them. I'm putting them in touch with rental property managers and, pulling all the strings I can to find them accommodation. But the other thing to consider, which is hard on a buyer, is the seller add a clause subject to the seller finding an acceptable home. Yeah,
that's definitely a piece that sellers are trying to protect themselves with. And buyers won't always take that. But in this kind of market, again, the sellers can ask what they want for the buyer to say, sure, yes. So today that kind of thing works.
Yeah. Okay, so next week, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, I thought about thinking about this, and I didn't think about it.
That's very deep. I thought we could potentially have my staging friend come on and do some pre and post. And we mentioned the other day about landscaping and preparing the outside of your house. So now's a good time to start working on that. So I was thinking possibly I could get that guest in either or. So do you want me to work on that?
Work on that, and then we'll, I guess we'll figure out which one it will be. It's going to be a surprise next week.
But getting your house ready for the spring market, now's the time to do that. So both inside and out. And we'll just be focusing on making your home the most saleable, just helping you get it prepped. So, and what does that mean in terms of pre-packing for your new home?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel so that you can watch us. It's right here.
Thank you.
I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group from Remax Camosun for He Said, She Said, They Said, and I'm with
Andrew Plank with Royal LePage for He Said, She Said, They Said.
Okay, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you next Monday at 10 a.m.
Always fun, Jane. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye.